July 2nd, 5:30, Code Committee meeting. We have a few items for consideration tonight. And the first item up will be proposal number 2, 2018, amending the municipal code of the city of Lawrence, Indiana, to establish all-way intersection at River Birch Lane and Elm Ridge Drive. Is there any concerns or anything you want to talk about? Councilor Parker.
I really don't have any concerns or questions unless there's any information that's changed since last time you were here.
No, I'm back to have DPW representation and Lawrence Police Department representation if there's any questions about precedent, as the chair mentioned last time.
Mr. President.
Well, I'll tell you what. Anybody else?
I'd like to go.
Yep.
I've actually been by there. I've talked to Tom. I would just go ahead and move forward to accept proposal number 2 as it is, rather than wasting these people's time.
Yeah, well, it's not, I don't consider it a waste of time. We just got to make sure that we're all on the same page. That's how I look at it. Deputy Chief Bigsby, that's who you was referring to, Councilor. Okay.
We don't see any issues.
Okay.
With being located there.
Okay.
It is a heavily traveled street. So
All right.
issues.
All right. Thank you. All right. Is there a motion on the floor for proposal number 2 to pass?
I'd make the motion for proposal number 2, 2018,
To go.
recommend to council
Okay. Recommend to council for.
approval.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to say something if I could.
Councilor Wells.
It's been my understanding, since I've been on this council, that it's in reference to like stop signs, no parking signs, other things that may come before this code committee, that the person that is bringing forth the request for the signs or whatever it might be is a certain amount of due diligence that was required. It's been required that I've seen since I've been on this council, and it's been required from former council members that I have spoken to that had served previous councils. So, you know, it only makes somewhat of sense to me that, you know, just because somebody wants a stop sign and maybe some other person wants a stop sign, that, you know, they approach this code committee and goes, oh yeah, we're going to have a stop sign. To me, there needs to be a need, and there's no better person to prove that need than our public safety officials or maybe our DPW people.
Yeah.
And you know, I commend that the fact that we have in fact brought forth our public safety people. If you know, the procedure hadn't tried to be skirted the last time a month ago, then maybe that sign could be well on its way, but or maybe even be put up by now. So and maybe I wouldn't have started on Facebook, but yeah, I'll vote for it, and I approve that it goes to the you know, that it goes to the full council.
All right, it's been first and second. Any further discussion at this time? DPW, we good to go? All right, first and second. Any further discussion? All in favor to, for approval to full council? Any opposed? Unanimous. Proposal number 2 pass. All right. We have next on the agenda proposal number 3. 2018, amending the municipal code of the city of Lawrence, Indiana, to establish stop at the intersection of Indian Lake Boulevard and South Drive and Hidden Oak Lane. Is there anyone here on behalf of, oh, we got police.
Yes, sir. There is a need for that stop sign. I can't believe when they constructed that whole complex of houses that they did not. The problem that you have is without that, your new drivers, If they don't see a stop sign, they're going to continue on. So once you go into Indian Lake South, which is 35 to 40 miles an hour, I mean, for new drivers or elderly that, you know, have issues coming out of there, I mean, and you would have to move that stop sign further out close to the street because there's a tree line that's actually covering up some of the like signs right now that you can't even tell unless you know to go in there where that is. So there's definitely a need. I can't believe that there's never been one placed there before.
Right.
So, and I've watched people come out of there today, just so you know, and they slowed down, but because there's no stop sign, they didn't see anybody coming, they just kept going. So there's definitely a need.
Gotcha, Captain. DPW, anything? Thumbs up, thumbs down, side to side?
No, I'll just kind of echo what Captain Cantrell mentioned. I'm surprised that that wasn't on the initial building plans for that subdivision. I just think it was overlooked by the developer at that point.
Okay.
So, yeah,
All right, sir.
thanks.
All right.
Can I actually comment on this? This is my proposal. I just wanted to give a little bit of a timeline if I could. Mark Rumrick, who is the Homeowners Association president of Indian Lake, reached out to me, said that several of his residents had mentioned that there were near misses with traffic accidents over the past years, because that development's been there for quite a while. And then I reached out to the Neighborhood Association president of that actual development. He was in favor. Then I reached out to Mr. Anthony, and he also went out there, and then Captain Cantrell. And I just wanted to say that I appreciated both of their efforts and help with this. And it happens to be a subdivision that's right next to my property.
Yep.
And when it was brought to my attention, I knew exactly what they were talking about, because there's times I pull out of my driveway and I look in my rearview mirror and there's a car right behind me, and it's like, where did that come from? So thank you very much for your support.
Yep. So, for the record, I too went and reconned these two areas as well, just for the sake of making sure that I was in tune or in sync with what's going on. All right, so Police Department, DPW has spoken. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'd like to make a motion.
Motion by
Motion to
Councilor-
accept
Okay,
approval proposal number 3, 2018.
okay. All right, second, by Councilor Wells. Any discussion? All in favor for proposal number 3 going forward? Any opposed? Unanimous. Proposal number 3 goes forward or pass. All right. Proposal number 4, 2018. I need these to read. Isn't that kind of ironic, huh? Amending the municipal code of the city of Lawrence, Indiana to adopt a new chapter of Title III, Article 3, to establish standards for elimination of graffiti. Is there anyone here to talk on about graffiti? I take it Councilor Parker.
Sorry, yes. Actually, I'm hoping that we can just keep this in committee. I have spoken with
Okay.
Director of DPW, Bill Anthony. We're still working on this.
Okay,
And I also spoke with Mr. Salisbury today with the City Utilities Director, and he is also in favor of this. And so still doing some work on this, hope that we could keep it in committee and hopefully bring it for a vote maybe at the next first of the month meeting.
okay.
I don't know if there's anybody here from the city that would like to comment on it at this time.
No? Okay. Well, so motion on the floor for proposal number 4. What's the motion?
Keep it in.
Mr. President,
Keep it in committee?
I make a motion that we put proposal number 4 on hold until further notified by the counselor that's writing it.
So you're seconding the first.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's on hold so we don't have another code meeting and
Code meeting, then,
correctly
right.
done.
Right.
So she could just let us know.
That's what you are making a recommendation for, right?
Yes.
A proposal for, okay.
Well, Mr. Chair, can we have a little bit of discussion on it at this time, or no?
Right now.
Right now. I love right now. In reading it, my 2 issues, I guess, with it is, or maybe 3, is, one, I really don't see that our city has a horrendous graffiti problem. And we do have a graffiti ordinance on the books, although it mainly pertains to As I read it, it pertains mostly to government buildings and public facilities, but this new ordinance, as I read it, penalizes the homeowner per se, the way I understand it. That if someone comes out and puts graffiti on someone's home, you know, they've got a certain amount of time to remove that or they're going to get a fine from the city, is the way I understand it. My problem with that, I got a lot of elderly citizens in my district that, you know, they can barely maintain their properties by mowing the grass, let alone, you know, to take care of getting out there and whitewashing or removal or whatever else. I guess, well, and my other issue with it, and I may be a little bit gray on this, a little bit fuzzy, is I was told, but I didn't read it in the ordinance, but I was told that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Becky, because you wrote this, but that if the homeowner does not remove the graffiti in a certain length of time, that the city will do it for them and then back bill them for the cost incurred. Is that true or no?
Okay, can I address everything that you've brought up, all the concerns that you brought up?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, if the chair will.
Would that be okay?
Hey, we're in discussion.
I was going to say, I think that's why we're here, right, to talk this out?
Let's talk it out.
Okay, so the first thing that you mentioned, you said that you didn't see a problem with the ordinance that we already have on the books. I couldn't find one.
There is no.
So if you could provide a copy of that to me, I would appreciate it, because I couldn't find anything.
There is a defacement of public property ordinance, but the word graffiti is not in the current code.
Okay, I mean, yeah, you're probably right. To me, I interpret it as the same thing, but.
And then secondly, you were talking about the ordinance penalizing homeowners from being fined and such. So I did some research, and nothing that I could find suggested that homeowners, like yourself and I, residents, have an issue with graffiti. People are not tagging people's residences that I can find, and the people that I've talked to in law enforcement and such. The problem really lies with your commercial property owners, your utility box owners, your railroad utility boxes, your IPL boxes, whatever, and maybe the city, like the city has sidewalks or brick walls and such that are tagged. So I know that's a concern of yours because you brought that to my attention recently. And so I did my research, and I don't see that that's an issue. But as far as the possibility that there are, you know, elderly people that might be affected by this in the future, then this is one of the things that we need to talk about and why I'm still working on this, because maybe we can have an abatement program, an abatement assistance program, and maybe whatever fines are collected for the people that don't cover up the graffiti after they're noted, maybe we can use that money to assist those people, but I really don't even think it's an issue, to be quite honest.
Well,
And as far as giving someone a notice and expecting them to pay the fine in a certain amount of time, I think that's pretty standard. If you look at Joe's proposal for the amendment for I think it's, I'm sorry, for litter, trash tonight, same thing, there's a fine, there's a certain amount of time, and if you don't take care of it, I think maybe even the city will take care of it and you pay for it, so pretty standard.
so, but my problem with the graffiti ordinance, with the fact that, okay, like in Joe's ordinance, and I got some issues with that too, but that's not tonight. We'll get through it.
We'll get through it.
We'll get through it. But, you know, it's like the analogy was used for like the same as, you know, people, or the city going on someone's property mowing grass. Well, grass, unlike hair, will grow back. So, I mean, you go in and mow somebody's grass and they don't like it, you know, or didn't like the way you did it, you know, it'll grow back. And the same when someone goes onto someone's property and just picks up litter, you know, you're not really doing anything to that property. My concern is that if the city takes it upon itself to remove this graffiti from someone's property or someone's structure or building or what have you, then, you know, the first problem is they're going to be angry because they got a fine to start with. And then they're gonna be even more angrier because now the city's got really involved and they're taking steps to remove it. And then, these people are gonna look for anything to throw back onto the city. And the first thing I see is that they're gonna say, well, hey, you come out here and, did this to my wall, now it doesn't look like it did. It doesn't match the rest of the structure. So to me, I see that the city could be on the cuff for, maybe possibly repainting an entire building. But that's my thought on it.
May I respond?
Well, sure, but can let me add one thing real quick. So I think the ideal about the seniors is a good point to make. And I think that talking about being a victim of vandalism is what that's the direction that was heading down. I'm correct on that? So, so I agree with all of that. And that is a good point about the possibility too. So, but I guess Councilor Parker is prepared to respond.
I am. So I guess I would go back to the trash. Look, I kind of see the trash and the graffiti as similar issues. Mm-hmm. So you don't know who's doing it, unfortunately. And so, you can't track down the car that drove by your property and threw the trash out over and over and over, just like the graffiti taggers. So if you own property, you're responsible for that property. And that's the way I look at it. You talk about the city going onto the property. I think the hope is that once the owner is notified, they will take it upon themselves to take care of it before it would ever get to the point where they would have to pay a fine or the city would have to take care of it, and then they'd have to pay for that cost. And then hopefully, it would be a one-time thing and they would get the message, we're serious about this, and they might start checking on their property and taking care of it. I know it's unfortunate, that it's not a one-and-done thing, but that's, I use the example, if somebody, and people do drive by and throw trash in my yard, I don't wait for someone to pick it up. I can't track down the person that did it. I'm responsible, that's my property. So I'm not trying to make this difficult for people. And once again, this really, it's a very isolated area. If you drive around our city, we're not talking, out by where I live, it is not an issue. It's a very isolated area. And some of the stuff that I brought to the attention of the city has been there for months, if not years. So, I attended a class years ago about graffiti, and graffiti sends a very negative issue to people about our city. It also invites the type of violence that we're trying to deal with right now. I also look at this part of the whole problem, and the solution of the violence problem that we're trying to address in our city right now. So it's a very isolated issue in our city, and I think that if you look and do your research, you'll find that a lot of other cities in Indiana that are our size, a little smaller, a little bit bigger, many of them have graffiti ordinances. This is nothing out of the ordinary.
So that was going to be my next question. Would it be possible that you could possibly present at the next code meeting some of the examples of the...
I would be happy to.
Yeah. Well,
and I did also reach out to you, Rick, in the past and asked if you would meet me and talk about this, and I would still be happy to do that as well. And I have one other quick question. What would be your solution? Do you have an alternative solution?
For the graffiti?
For addressing the graffiti?
I think I haven't really given a lot of thought as far as what my idea is, because myself, I don't see graffiti in my district as a real big problem.
And I think that's unfortunate because a lot of it resides in your district.
I'd like for you to go around with me sometime and show me.
Happy to.
Because I was told that there was graffiti on the Mars store from this very council bench, and I went completely around that building, and I never saw the first trace of graffiti. Okay. But at any rate, what I would like to see, maybe this graffiti thing could be maybe directed more at the commercial properties and commercial owners, the people that do have the resources, more so than the homeowners to deal with this. But what I would like to see possibly, if this is something that we gotta have, is this graffiti ordinance, is is possibly like, you were saying, a fund of money that came from the fines, and instead of penalizing citizens for having graffiti, is for the city to, to go out and offer to help remove it, but not invoke a fine, but just invoke like a good neighbor mentality.
Good discussion, and that's what it's all about. And I'm glad that DPW is in the presence so that they hear the same things that you guys talked about tonight, and then we can take it further. So it's first and seconded to put it on hold until the bugs are worked out, correct?
Yes.
Any further discussion?
No, sir, I'm done.
Very good discussion, very good discussion. All right.
Vote on the motion to keep it in committee.
Right, first and second. All in favor to keep it in committee by show of hands? Any opposed? Unanimous, it stays in committee. All right. Anything else good for the order by the councilors? If not, Code Committee is adjourned.